Welcome back to the Berg podcast. With me today is Brodie.
I'm Brodie. Hi, I'm a BCTC high school student, senior. I work for Berg Construction as a labor operator.
Cool. Briana.
Hi, I'm Briana. I work for Berg Construction doing co-op through BCTC.
Okay. So it's a big day for you guys, big week here. You have graduation coming up, but before that you have decision day and you have prom coming up, both of you. But today you were in the office because today you officially made the decision you were coming on board with Berg. So that's exciting for us. BCTC is one of my favorite places with kids because genuinely you guys make a commitment to what you want to do. And so many kids are just either going into the workforce trying to figure it out or, going into college and saying, I'm going to figure it out. And whether you're going to college because you want to be something, an engineer, a doctor, something that would actually warrant going to school, or you're going to play sports or whatever, I view it just like that you guys have made a commitment and decision, but you're actually out of the gate earlier. It's something I always really enjoy talking about, and we've done this a lot with having younger kids come in and really be able to build a retirement career back, just a good life right out of the gate by making early decisions. So BCTC is one of my favorite places. So a couple of sort of where I wanted to direct this was, and I'll start with Briana. So Briana, what was, at what point when you joined us for co-op, did you sort of feel like maybe this could be more than just co-op? Was there a moment or how did that happen?
The realization that you guys are like more worried about your employees individually rather than just like the whole company in general. Like you focus on your employees and what they need as well. Okay.
All right. That's cool. I mean, we try. It is this is a tough business, and everybody sees that's in it, and as you get into it, you'll see it. But you try, and each company tries to differentiate themselves, and that's the truth. No matter which one of us it is, because a lot of people visit BCTC, and we all try and differentiate ourselves with some specific thing, and that's what I always focus on: is try and find the place that's right for you, and that's it. That's a great feel. That's who we try and be culturally, is stay as close to when it was just a few of us together, and it was 10 or 15 guys and we all knew what we were doing and we were all friends, try and stay as close to that feeling as possible. Now it's like pods of friends, so to speak, because some of the crews don't see each other as much. But Brodie, how about you?
Like, just same with Bree, like how the company's a lot smaller than a lot more like other bigger companies, and you're not just a number. Like, they actually care about your opinion, and you have more opportunities to, say, get in a rock truck or get in a excavator or anything like that. Yeah. You have opportunities to do stuff, and you can get there a lot sooner than later.
No, that's 100% true. I mean, it's a good thing that we do. It's also a fault of ours that we it's why we struggle to really have labor, because we move people into equipment because they generally want to. And your paths were actually very different to start, right? Am I right about that? Like, Briana, you started at the Camino site right away. Brodie, you were at landfill, weren't you? You were one of the big landfill jobs.
I was at Aronimink my first month. I was doing pipe work with Levi. Okay. And then I got put with Don Hill. And then the whole summer, I was pretty much running a rock truck, building the parking lot for the golf course. Okay. All right.
Did you end up at a landfill for a while? Didn't you end up?
Yeah. And like towards fall and winter, I was at Secra.
And what were you doing there?
I was laboring and running a rock truck.
Okay. All right. So a lot of rock truck, which is, we talk about it. It's something we do. It's one of the first pieces usually guys get in across the industry. It's something that people do. Not necessarily the best idea, but it is something we do. Briana, what did you do when you got to Camino?
I learned how to lay pipe. Okay. My first week we were doing fire line.
Okay. All right. And is that where you stuck with it? You like that? Is that sort of...
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Okay. All right. And it's funny because that's somewhere we really struggle as a company. Is we've had a lot of people who were good in that role, but they almost always want to be an operator. And one of the few people who I couldn't get to do that, and Stetson, I call Stetson a boomerang employee because Stetson left and then he came back. So Stetson was with us for a while and then he left, went out and went to a couple different companies, was both union and non-union, and he came back. And Stetson was somebody I tried to move to operator. I did everything I could to move that kid to operator because he knew what he was doing. He had a really good head on his shoulders. And he just wanted to be a pipe layer. He was like, this is what I want to do. And he found that path outside of Berg where he could be, like a top guy and a lead operator or a pipe layer and lead of the pipe team. And then grew even into more than that. So it's definitely a path, but it's a path that we've, by habit, seen people jump out of. but it's one of the most important ones, because if you don't have a pipe layer, ultimately on most crews you're running 3 to 5 pieces of equipment depending on how much pipe you're trying to put in at what depth. And you think about it, that only goes as fast as the pipe layer. Like, you can have a really good track hoe operator, not that it doesn't matter, but at the end of the day you can only put in as much pipe as the pipe layer can put in. So that's an important role. From a standpoint of throughout the year, was there anything that you ran into that sort of BCTC hadn't prepared you for, or your experience behind that hadn't prepared you for? Or did you feel pretty well prepared?
I think the more so labor aspect. Okay. BCTC focuses more on like the operating part. Going into a new job, you can't expect to be operating right away, especially at a young age.
Yep.
So just learning, like, it's kind of funny to say, but how to labor in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But BCTC, it's all operating, really no laboring. And when we come in here, it's all laboring right away. So, like, any of the things to do with pipe, we didn't really know anything about pipe work, anything about anything really. We run equipment, and it's like make-believe. We just do like the normal stuff, loading truck, trenching. It doesn't actually mean something. Out there, it means something. Like, if you mess up, you mess up. Like, it costs money. Yeah, and laboring is it's different.
Yeah. How was the laboring in terms of, was it from an expectation standpoint? Well, I guess before we start that, like, what is your sort of background in terms of what made you want to make a decision to get into this field?
For me, it was my grandfather and my dad and brother.
Okay.
My grandfather worked for H&K,
okay.
And my dad went from different construction companies, and like he would bring home like an excavator or a skiddy. So at a young age, I was exposed to it, and I just really enjoyed like digging in the backyard for fun. You
know what I think would be funny is your grandfather could have worked with Rambo. Like, that's entirely. In fact, thinking about age, your grandfather could have worked for Rambo.
Probably.
I mean, because Gary at one point was, I think he was general super of Blooming Glen. So, I mean, he ran a lot of stuff. So that's funny because I don't know if you noticed, but Gary's very old. So he's even I can say that. And so that's interesting. So you had exposure to it, you saw it, and you decided you wanted to do it. So you sort of had an understanding of what it would be, right, when you coming into it, you think?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, because that's one of the big things. Ford has always preached, one of Ford's favorite things. Have you guys ever seen the hats and other stuff that says dirty hands, clean money? Or is that like too old for you guys? That's not in the thing.
I've heard it before.
You've heard of it. So it was like a thing that people would put on their trucks, and Ford had a hat. And it was a neat idea, because for me growing up, my dad was blue collar, but the rest of my family, growing up, like my mom's side of the family, there was 2 doctors and then a bunch of teachers, and then my blue collar dad. He was like the odd man out. And so it always came across to me that like you wanted to be this thing that my dad wasn't, right? Like, I didn't want to be blue collar. Like, my dad would view that as me not really achieving what he wanted me to. He didn't want me to stand in a ditch next to him. He wanted me to, do something else. So it intrigues me when people buy into it themselves and their parents buy into it, because it's really important, because there's only so many. Not everybody's meant to be a doctor or a lawyer, and not everybody wants to stand in an office, and so the reality that almost everything that everyone else does is done because of blue collar labor, not just heavy civil specifically, but all of it, whether it be plumbers, electricians, laborers, it doesn't matter. All those roles make it that you're able to get to work, that you have a sewer at your house, that you are able to have a indoor plumbing, that you're able to have, a stove. All those things are people that know how to do stuff. And it's a real risk we have now that we're losing that a lot of people don't know how to do a lot of things. And that's a little scary. Brodie, how about you? Where did you get the desire to do this?
A little bit my parents, and just like I just always thought like the heavy equipment's interesting. It's obviously cool when you're little.
Yeah.
And I can't be in an office. It's just not for me. I hate school and I don't want to go to college, and I think this field fits me, and I like equipment and everything that goes into it. I think it's really interesting. And I'd like to eventually drive truck too. Okay. And this is a start to that. And it's, yeah. Yeah,
no, that's a great answer. And so in my office across the hall there's a picture on on the counter, and we had taken a bunch of the guys to Komatsu's training facility. So it's down in the Atlanta area, and they have all their equipment, and you get to run new equipment. They show you some new stuff they have. There's all sorts of other things. And so we had a friend who it's a professional mom and a professional dad, both in pretty professional type careers, not blue collar at all. And their two boys love equipment. And so Banks was 5, and I took him because they lived down in Atlanta. And so I showed up, and they were like, "What? You said you were bringing, one of your friend's kids." And I was like, "Yeah." And they said, "You said he was 15." I said, "No, we said 5." And they were like, "What? We can't have a 5-year-old on our site." And so there was all these like specific rules, and they were like, "We don't even have anything to fit him." And Banks had a little hard hat and a little vest, and it was like his dream had come true. Like he was getting to see all this equipment. And we did it here. We were doing a job in Chester Springs when they were up one time, and I brought him, and it was somebody's house that I knew. And so I said, "Hey, I'm going to run our equipment at your job. I'm just going to let him play around." And so he was probably 5 years old, and I let him sit in a 290 on my lap, and he's just banging the bucket into everything, and my wife and I would talk about it, that's there in so many kids, and we like beat it out of people. We like say like, no, you have to do this other thing. And then all of a sudden a lot of people end up, 30 years old in a career, and they're like, I don't want to do this. This isn't for me. This isn't where I belong. And myself, I felt that way. Like I went to college and got a degree, and I don't really use it. I mean, I guess I use it in the sense of I know how to wade my way through just like you would high school, but I did it for college. But I realized like I really didn't want to just be stuck in an office. Now, ironically, I've worked myself right back to an office, but that's why I show up out in the site, because I can only like take so much of it where I just sit here. So that's interesting. And the funny part about this, though, so I have a friend that has I haven't probably seen him in 20 years. And Mike has a fence company where he installs fence all over South Jersey. And he's posted a variation of it a few times. And I've seen in other places that he said, who would have thought the kids that were in the trailer, right? So when I was young, the schools were all overcrowded in Jersey, and they would put just temporary trailers outside. And so their classrooms were all in the trailer. Like I had algebra and I was inside. They had like remedial math, and they were in an unheated trailer, uncooled trailer outside. And he said, who would have thought all the kids that went to school in the trailer would be the ones that built everything, and you see that a lot of places. And I want to make sure that like Brodie, you don't do it to yourself. Like I don't want you to say you hate school. I want you to say like, that's not the environment you want to operate in, because the truth is in another 4 years, I would argue you're going to be better at math than the kids that you think are good at math. Like you're going to be able to lay out pipe runs and angles and Tom Berg himself is a great example. Ford does it, but Tom is more shocking to me because Ford went to college, for the most part. And Ford, when you meet and interact with Ford, he's a sharp kid, right? Tom's like this old grizzled blue collar guy who can do a lot of things. I mean, he can weld, he's a good mechanic, he can run equipment. But you go ahead and ask Tom some question about, I got to run a pipe and I got to run it a half a mile away, and this is the grade. And Tom will tell you the exact answer, like bang, right off the top of his head. And that math is crazy. I mean, it's if they could teach you math in school in the way that you utilize it in the field, you wouldn't hate math. That's the problem sometimes, is that we're trying to teach everyone to an end instead of trying to meet people where they are. Now, that is hard in school because school's like a big company. But I think it's important that you realize it, that you're actually going to use a lot of what you learned and you won't even realize it. And then you're going to learn more about the specific things. So it's going to be certain math. And I mean, Briana, you did a lot of pipe over the last year. Like, you know what I'm talking about with these runs. When you start to see, whether it's Zach or Jack or Stetson, and they start to roll out this math, they were the kid that didn't like school. And they pull out a little notebook and graph paper and they draw you a run that's a math problem that if you gave it to the teacher, they might struggle with. So it's an interesting thing. Where do you guys sort of see yourself? And, we were, and I mentioned this to you before we started, but we had the years of service dinner not long ago, and with the age of our company, we're not super old, but we're getting there. I mean, we have people who are 15 years in. And where do you sort of see yourselves? Brodie, you go first. Where do you sort of see yourself? Like, where do you want to be in 5 years and 10 years?
In 5 years, I'd like to have my CDL and get in a truck more if it's with here, or I'd like to get in a truck here. And yeah, I'd like to try trucking. I've always been interested in that, and I think I would like it. but I might not like it. And I like operating, so like that. And 10 years, I'm honestly not sure yet.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What piece of equipment do you like the most of the equipment?
Probably excavator.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I kind of like I would love to say I like like dozer. I do like it. It's just really frustrating. A dozer is, I think dozers are the hardest things to run. I think a track hoe allows you to be a little bit more rammy. It allows you to you can go faster. It also suits my like, I hate that everybody gets classified with ADD, and I will never get classified because of that. But like my desire to just do different things, I feel like with a dozer, you see, like you've seen Greg the last couple of weeks, and like Greg can just sit there and grade the same thing for months. Like I've watched him grade 40 acres, just keep grading. Whereas like a track hoe, you get to jump around. Sometimes you're digging one thing, then you're over here. I feel like you get to make a mess and then clean it up with a track hoe, which is like the heart of when when you're a kid and you picture like what it would be like. It's not just smooth grading. It's like making a mess and then cleaning it up. How about you, Briana?
In 5 years, I hope to be at least proficient in pipe laying.
Okay.
But if not a foreman, then an assistant foreman.
Okay. All right. So you want to work into sort of the role where you go from just laying the pipe to getting to lay out the pipe.
Yeah.
And be responsible for that. And that takes a lot. And so people want to rush. And I was thinking about on another topic that I wanted to talk about. I was thinking about there's a couple people that always stick in my head. And so there was a kid. His nickname was Angus, right? And Angus, he's with another company now, and he went back to the company he came from. He was a boomerang to them, and his dad had worked for that company his whole life. And Angus was a good pipe layer, and he wanted to be a foreman. And I remember sitting down with him, and I said, Angus, we are not ready for you to be the foreman. Like, I'm not even saying you can't be the foreman. I'm saying we don't have a good enough pipe crew to support you as the foreman. That like stuff's gonna go wrong, and when stuff goes wrong in pipe, it's real bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to dig it all back up again. The pipe's probably no good. It could have been paved already. There can be all kinds of problems. And I said, we're just going to make mistakes, and then we're going to end up in a spot where you're going to fail. And he didn't fail, but he started to fail, and he realized it, and that's what sort of chased him out. That he was like, I'm just going to go back where I came from and just be a pipe layer and take a slower path. And that is one of the benefits of the bigger companies. These bigger companies can say like, okay, we have 10 steps to get you to be a pipe, the pipe foreman. Whereas with us, we'll set up time frames, and there might be steps, but it's not like well thought out, trained steps. And that's something Stetson has done a great job of over the last, I'd say like 18 months to 2 years, is formalizing how you go from I like to lay pipe and I'm proficient at it to I want to be responsible for setting up the runs and doing everything. And he's been really effective at that. And it was, fortunately for me, it was something I could sort of just say like, actually, Stetson, you're really good at this. I support what you're doing. I empower you to do it. You just bring it to me. We'll go over the plan. As long as you and I can agree to the plan and the dollars and the time frame, we're just going to go with that. And it's been really effective for us. The hardest part for us with that is when we succeed at raising people's level and really providing them with additional skills that they don't have, two things could happen. One, they could become like the next superstar for us. But two, they could become the next superstar for someone else, because the bigger companies can't invest as quickly as we can. So all of a sudden you have a younger person, and we go through that honestly fairly often, not all the time, but it happens, not 50%, but probably I'd bet 30% of the time that we get somebody that's really effective, they jump out, and sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't. And that goes back to what you were saying about culture, that we have to do a better job of really being who we want to be all the time, because we want that to be our differentiator, And so it was interesting that you identified that. So can we talk just a little bit about Decision Day and what that's like? What it, for people that don't know it, the way I would align it is sort of, if you ever see like signing day when kids sign scholarship for sports, that's really, I think, where it came from, and we tried to broaden it out. Is that a fair description, and sort of how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's basically just like that, but for kids who go to BCTC. So to acknowledge the ones going to BCTC, going to college, trade school, and the workforce, just to like get it out there and be like they're doing great things too, kind of.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like a mini graduation in a sense.
Okay.
You walk across the stage, shake hands, I think we might have to sign a paper too.
Okay.
And that's it. So it's just kind of, in a sense, both graduation and like a signing day combined.
Okay. All right. And Brodie, what happens after signing day? And this particular day, what comes after signing day tomorrow?
Full time or prom.
Prom comes after.
Prom.
So you guys have a full day here. It's going to, by the time this airs, it'll already have happened. Prom's going to be prom. It'll be what it is behind you. But so you guys got a full day tomorrow. Do you go to school in the morning as well?
We'll be at BCTC in the morning and then go to decision day and then prom.
All right. So I assume Stetson will get no productive hours tomorrow. No, we're not. Okay. So what are you looking forward to most about the transition? Because realistically, you've been working for us full time since, September. Not full time, but effectively, while not 40 hours every week, effectively full time, because you guys are, we try and get you to a spot where you can get to it. And we treat it like on days where you would be at a half day because of school, it's still, you show up and probably still work 6 hours. Mm-hmm. So what are you expecting to be the biggest change as you graduate and step into full time?
For me, just adjusting to like going back to how it was over the summer and the full days. Okay. Because that's a big thing. 6 hours compared to 12 hours is a big difference. Yeah. So just adjusting to that. And to the different hours, like more hours. Yeah. Well, and just the, keep in mind, we do not want you to run 12 hours. Like I know we did that and it was one of the, I don't want to say it was a necessary evil, but we were trying to meet the client's expectation of what they wanted, regardless of what had come before. And so we made a commitment that we would do it. I talked to Stetson, they talked to Jack and Zach, and then I think they talked to you guys and just said, this is what we want to do. We want to run 10s. That's always my culture thing. Mm-hmm. And thinking behind it is the majority of us have families. And we want to respect everybody's space and time. And growing up, truthfully, my dad always worked Saturday and most Sundays too. So that was just how I grew up and he was not around. And I'd like to work it in a way that doesn't have to be, my kids or your kids' reality someday that you're never there. So my feeling is always if we can work longer days but protect Saturday and Sunday, then it allows you to sort of have that integration between work and life. Brodie, how about you in terms of what you're expecting?
Just the full-time employment. I kind of work full-time already because I do online, so I work full days out in the field. Yeah. But just the difference between not having to worry about school anymore and just the change of going into reality and how you're going to be working full-time for the rest of, the
rest of whenever.
Yeah, just working the full days and just seeing what comes along as it goes.
Yeah. And that's a funny perspective because and I think that's what I really like about BCTC, truthfully, is most kids right now are making decisions that maybe that's not fair. My perception is that most kids are making decisions based on a little bit of nervousness about going from a regiment that they know, that they're comfortable with, that they've been in for 12 years, that you show up and someone's going to help you do something and they're going to give you some homework and then you're going to have lunch and you're going to see your friends and we're going to go from that level of structure to work that we don't know what it is and there's actual penalties. Like if you don't show up for school for a couple of days and you get a note, and I know there are limits to the number of days you can miss, but like if you just don't show up for work for a couple of days, you don't have a job anymore, and that follows you. So there's a realness to the point at which you guys are. And I feel like BCTC as a whole, whether it be going into, one of the operator programs or the construction program or concrete or joining the military, this group of students has committed to, we know what we want to do and we are prepared to make that transition, where I feel like a lot of times kids coming out of school, they don't know what they're going to do and they're nervous about it. And so it's an odd sense that for Brodie, you're describing it almost as a relief that you get to like go to work now. Yeah. Whereas there's a lot of people out there that are probably graduating that are like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going, or I'm going to school, but I don't know what to expect. Or, at the end of the day, and this is something I want to sort of, we can close on this topic, is Cooper Jones comes to mind. So Cooper's probably 30 now. Cooper worked for us for a good 7-8 years. He worked while he was in high school, mowed the grass, and then worked his way through and got all the way to a foreman. And Cooper ran virtually nothing except for prevailing wage landfill work. So, I mean, Cooper did really well. And he put a lot of money in his 401k. And that always stuck in the back of my mind. And I would say to kids when I'd go to school, the people that have the things that you might want, whether that be, a hunting cabin or a boat or a shore house or a, classic car or motorhome, whatever. A lot of times, if they have that and they're 40, 50 years old, they're people that started working right out of school. And they put their nose to the grindstone, they worked, and they either worked for someone or, built a company or did something. If you look at the really wealthy doctors and lawyers, they're older because it takes so long to pay off what it costs to get that education. And the reason I bring that up is to say, next year, you two are going to make a salary and you're going to make X amount of $1,000 next year. And there's going to be some of your friends that pay to go to college, and whether they actually pay it or whether they get a loan for it are going to be negative as much or more than you are positive. So like it just making round numbers. If you made 50 and they paid 50, well, you're 100 ahead of them right now, day one. And if they do that for 4 years and they're negative 200 and you're plus 200, because there's still money to be spent, expenditures, and whether you move out of home right away, all those things can factor in. But just from a pure revenue standpoint, you're plus $200,000 at 20 years old, 21 years old. And that, it becomes really important. And I want to say this to you, that if you're still living at home, put as much as you can in your 401k. Like, I know it'd be nice to have a brand new truck or a Harley or whatever you want to get, but you put that money away and you're gonna not forever. You know what I mean? Like when you look at that start of work and I'm going to work, I don't want it to be forever. Like I want the two of you to be able to retire in a reasonable amount of time and be able to live the life you want. But to do that, you need to be smart with your money while, it's not good enough that you just didn't blow the money on college when that wasn't what you really wanted to do. You also have to make good decisions now. So, what was your parental support look like when you made the decision that you wanted to go to BCTC, this was your plan? Either of you.
My family was super about it because school is just not for me, and it was obvious I wasn't going to be going to college. And BCTC is a great program. They have so many choices for so many different jobs, and I decided that it would be a lot better fit for me. And even in high school, then you get half the day, then you go to BCTC and learn a trade or something. And it's just because then we learned over those 3 years, and then we could come right to work here and know more than the average. If another 18-year-old that didn't go to BCTC came here, we would know more than them.
Yep.
And it's just, BCTC is a great thing. And I love BCTC. I can't stand schools, but it's just how it is. I love tech school's amazing to me. I've learned so much, and it helps me a lot.
That's great. Brianna?
Like Brodie said, BCTC is a great opportunity. I'm also not a huge fan of school, but that's because I'm a hands-on learner.
Okay.
And I know BCTC is majority hands-on, so I always knew I wanted to go to BCTC. And my parents fully supported me because I have two older brothers that both went to BCTC,
okay.
And it really changed their lives.
Yeah.
So my dad was the most excited, probably more excited than me when I got the acceptance letter.
Yeah.
Because that meant I was following in his footsteps.
So I'm going to close with that, and Brodie, not to step away from you to Brianna, but I'm really happy to have Brianna on the team, and frankly, the reason is there is a significant hole in our workforce that we just don't have. And there's no reason for it. You're taking the hardest route in terms of wanting to be a pipe layer, but I've said many times that there is no reason that women can't do the work we do in terms of operators. I don't want to get into a tough decision of could you be a pipe layer? You're proving you can, but it's harder work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you get to an operator, it takes a little bit to get there, but if you take advantage of something like BCTC where you knew how to run equipment and you could labor a little bit and then get that opportunity, this could be a real opportunity. And we just don't take advantage of that portion of the workforce because we create this perception that construction is for guys. Mm-hmm. And you just ignore half the workforce for no reason, and so I think it's really important. I'm thrilled with it just from the standpoint of getting to sort of prove my point that there's we have somebody who's out in the field, who's working, who's showing that you can do it. And that's I think, can really make you like a role model for a lot of the other people. And I know BCTC, you're not the first. There's a few girls that were ahead of you that I know, and I think one of them's at Brubacher, right? Somebody's at Brubacher, maybe even two at Brubacher. And same thing. So it's important, and I think the trade school gives us the avenue to do that. It is harder to just go to Twin Valley and try and convince all the students that a couple girls should come work in construction. It's harder. Whereas BCTC, you guys make the decision. So I congratulate you on making the decision, on getting through 12 years of school, and on making a decision and owning it and picking it a career. It's exciting. We're happy to have you on board, and we look forward to great things from both of you. So congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That's all I got. That's a good place to wrap it up. So hopefully you come back and join us. Hopefully you get something out of this, and hopefully Briana and Brodie's family see it, even though they don't want them to. So I appreciate both of you being on the podcast, and look forward to having you back in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.